time to remake that amazing Daedric Artifact tier list that I made the first time, where I mispronounced half of the things. All right, so let's just dive right into it. This is for Master Mode. What we're looking for are artifacts that are really strong, that do something unique. I'm going to call out what levels they can be unlocked at, as well as generally what it does, and how useful that effect is in Master Mode. So to begin, we have Azura Star. Azura Star can be obtained as early as level 2. It's an infinite use soul gem that can soul trap everything but black souls. So any non-NPC can be soul trapped, allowing you to continually refill soul gems, or at the very least just keep storing grand souls for enchanting or recharging, as well as other souls. So you can just recycle souls, summon something, kill it, soul trap it, reset. Has infinite combos outside of combat, inside of combat if the enemies can be soul trapped. Very powerful artifact, definitely one of the best for sure. Wabbajack. So Wabbajack can be acquired as early as level 2 as well. For 10 seconds, it transforms a creature into a different creature. The things it can transform are Daedroth, Deer, Goblin Skirmisher, Ogre, Rat, Sheep, Skeleton Champion, Troll. So if you want to kill the transformed target quickly, you really want a deer, a rat, or a sheep. So 3 out of 8 times you use this on a creature, so something that can be soul trapped, and I believe Zivali are considered creatures. So if you hit a Zivali with this and it turns it into a rat, a sheep, or a deer, you can easily nuke that down in under 10 seconds. But if it transforms into like a skeleton champion, a troll, a Daedroth, you probably can't nuke that down without some kind of ramping. I'm going to put this in B tier. I think it's decent. It has some use case in terms of actual uses. It only has 10, which is unfortunate. And it does have 3,000 charge, which means if you want to fully recharge it, you're looking at 2 grand soul gems or 3 graders, which is quite a big cost. But it could be used for key threats. Now, obviously, it's random. Actually, for the uses, I'm going to bump it down to C. I forgot it's 10 uses. That's really... If it had like 50 uses, then you could kind of spam it a bit. But because it's random... the transformed enemy has full health, so like if you transform a thing into an ogre, for example, you have to kill a full health ogre in 10 seconds, which is probably not going to happen without ramping. But it can be decent in some use cases, so some use cases, C tier. Ring of Namira, I consider this to be quite strong. It's really good for patching damage reflect to extend your armor cap, so if you're at armor cap, it gives you a little bit more of a damage reduction, so it shaves off an extra 12% damage. It also reflects that amount. Now, it doesn't scale the reflect, so like if an enemy hits you for some amount of damage, it will reflect that amount of damage back, whatever the amount is, based on the percentage. It's not a percent chance. It also has spell reflect, which is a percent chance. So it has 10% spell reflect, 12% damage reflect. Pretty strong, really easy to get. The quest is super easy. It's really easy to get early game. At level 5, all you need to do is buy a bunch of cheap wine, spam them, get your personality to 20 or below, and then cast 4 spells on NPCs that don't fight you back, and then collect your ring. But I like to use it on tank builds. On magical builds, I usually skip it, but it's great for tank builds. It gives you a little bit of chip damage and reduces damage, and then it gives you a 1 in 10 to reflect a spell, which also combos with other spell reflect, so it's like a combo piece ring as well. Next, we have Skull of Corruption. So Skull of Corruption's interesting. Because it summons a clone of an NPC that will fight that NPC. So NPCs meaning black souls, so humanoids. This could be useful. There are NPCs that are threats. I'm going to put this in B tier. I think it's decent. It has 20 uses though, but by using this, essentially what you're doing is forcing an NPC to fight a clone of itself, which, you know, very likely it ends up in that NPC almost dying or basically dying, but at the very least it's crowd control that deals damage. And it's, you know, 20 uses, which is respectable. And it always works as long as it's an NPC in question. So you can't use this on like a creature, for example. So that's like the big thing. Next we have Sanguine's Rose. Also the Skull of Corruption you can get at level 5. And you do need a black soul gem, which can be kind of a pain to get. But if you know how to get them, it's not really too bad. Next, for Sanguine's Rose, you need Cyrodiilic Brandy, which can be expensive unless you find one. They're around like 150 gold. But this is a pretty good item. I actually consider this high A tier. So what it does is when you summon, or when you hit an enemy with this effect, so it has 10 uses, so when you hit an enemy, it summons a random Daedra who will attack the target. Now, when the person dies, sometimes the Daedra will linger and sometimes attack you or attack another target, but the random Daedra It can summon up to a Zivali, but it is random. But as long as it summons something, it usually will help you. This is very good for early game. You can get it at as early as level 8. It's very good for early game because if your build is not online yet, this gets you basically a high level summon, or at the very least a mid to low level summon without using any magicka to fight your targets. And at high level, it can just be used as a distraction, but it's definitely good for early to middle game, and arguably it falls off because a random summon isn't as good as like a controlled summon that's good. Next we have Volendrung. So Volendrung, this is a blunt weapon, unfortunately. So it's a hammer. Hammer is arguably not the best thing. Its enchants are decent. So paralyzed for 3 seconds is decent. That will crowd control. Now it only has 16 uses though. It also has drain health, 5 points or 20 seconds, which is not damage health. So it doesn't do 5 times 20 damage over time. It just reduces their max health by 5. So it's really not the best thing. Honestly, and the fact that it has like low damage, it doesn't have competitive damage for endgame, so best case scenario, this is like an early game paralyze. I'm putting this in C tier. I think it's decent for early game, and that's it. But you get it at, I think, level 10. Yeah, level 10. I don't think the quest is particularly difficult. It's Malakath's quest, so it's fine. I mean, it's a hammer. Hammers are arguably one of the worst weapon types of the game, because two-handed is worse than like anything with a shield right now, just because of the nature of how good block is, and the fact that you get an extra enchant slot. But it could be used as like a panic crowd control. But refilling it could be questionable early game unless you have like some kind of soul trap engine. So it really depends on the build. Alright, so next we have Ring of Khajiit. This definitely is S tier because it has Chameleon, and Chameleon breaks the game. It gets you a lot of Chameleon as well. It gets you 35% Chameleon, which you need 100 or higher to basically be unhittable and break the game. So this gets you a third the way there, and it's not too difficult to acquire. So pretty decent. Next is the Skeleton Key. So I got a lot of pushback on the Skeleton Key. So before I even place it, I'm just going to explain what it does and how actually useful it is. So the Skeleton Key is convenient, right? Because it allows you to lockpick without doing the mini game. You can just auto attempt and it will eventually open. And it's just a nice convenience thing. It doesn't really break the game by unlocking like random unique items. If you go do farming in dungeons, you can open locked chests with this easier than you could with just normal lockpicking, assuming you're not good at the minigame or you don't like the minigame. So it just bypasses the lockpicking minigame. Some people consider this S tier because it's convenient and it's nice, but it's not game breaking because when you open a chest, there's a random chance that you get items, and very often those items are just bad or random, and sometimes they're good. But non-locked, like unlocked chests and boss chests, which are almost never locked, produce some of the better, like the best items generally. So like boss chests that are unlocked, which there's quite a few. Crayfish Cave has, I think, 2 boss chests that are unlocked. Robbers Glen Cave has like a boss chest that's unlocked. Those produce the most items of the highest value, but this doesn't do anything that breaks the game. It's just nice. So I'm going to put it in low A tier. It's not overpowered. You can use Alteration, which does the exact same thing. Alteration is a perfectly valid form of magic. It has, you know, armor cap early, gives you feather, which is huge value. Beast of Burden is like one of the best spells for looting. 250 carry weight to carry like full sets of Daedric back from like Oblivion gates to make massive money. So like, if Alteration didn't exist, I would maybe put it into low S tier, but because opening locked things doesn't break the game, and you just have a random chance to get items, that's ultimately all it is. It's convenience. So you could call it S tier for convenience, but it's not game breaking. It bypasses a useless skill. Like lockpicking is largely a terrible skill that doesn't matter. So it's not like it's overshadowing some amazing skill that's insane. It's like overshadowing. It's like illusion being better than speechcraft. It's not. It's like illusion is overpowered for a different reason, but the fact that it can just like nullify speechcraft's existence is also a feature of it. Next we have Spellbreaker. Spellbreaker gives you 30% spell reflect and does stack with Ring of Namira, which puts you at 40% spell reflect. I'm going to put this in low S tier because spell reflect actually triggers before spell absorb and before magic resist. So if you have like 100% magic resist, or even just like 50 to 70 or whatever magic resist, if you have like 50% spell reflect, the game checks spell reflect first and then checks, and then if it doesn't pass that, then it checks spell absorb, and then if it doesn't trigger that, then it just hits your magic resist or weakness. So this is a very powerful effect. It's on heavy armor, which most people consider heavy armor to be the better of the two of heavy versus light armor. But the Ring of Namira also helps with tanking above armor cap, and it combos well with Spellbreaker. So very huge value here for 40% base reflect. So almost half of the spells you're hit with will just be reflected now, just between these two Daedric artifacts. It's not too difficult to acquire. You have to save a few souls in an Oblivion Gate. You can do it relatively early. I think you do it as early, like level 10, right? Yeah, it unlocks level 10. And all Oblivion, or all Daedric artifacts, aside from Maverin's Razor, are unleveled, meaning that as soon as you get them, they're the highest stats, and they don't follow like the early to high level rule, where like if you're level 1, it'll be weaker than the level 25 version, for example. So aside from Maverin's Razor, which does do that, so as soon as you get it, it's really good, actually. It's good armor. It has pretty good effect that's consistent and reliable, and you can always get it. So it's pretty nice. I like to run it on tanks. Next, we have Ebony Blade. I think Ebony Blade is, at the very least, high A tier. Its base damage is good, but it's really good for shutting down casters. There are a lot of annoying casters in this game that heal themselves. Like, they have heal spells, and they will just keep healing themselves, keep summoning things, and keep running away. This just allows you to stop them from doing that, and that's largely how I'd recommend using it. This should never be your main weapon. You can get it as early as level 15, and it's quite an easy quest to do. You just have to kill some NPCs in like a village and then frame it so it looks like they killed each other. But you can be really sloppy about it and just like enter their house and kill them and then, you know, plant the evidence. It's super easy to do. It's actually like weirdly easy. But as a main weapon, I don't recommend it. It has like 8 health absorb. It has silence 10 seconds. I recommend using this as a utility to silence casters that either cast dangerous spells you don't want to be dealing with, like offensive spells, or to shut down healers so that you can actually DPS them down. Either way, it's very strong. It has good base damage. It also has really good base damage early, because you get it as early as level 15. So compared to other level 15 items, it's actually very strong. You can't get Daedric until level 20 plus, so it's basically about as good as like a Daedric longsword, maybe like a point of damage less. Next, we have Savior's Hide. Savior's Hide, I think, deserves a place in low S tier. If you are a Breton and you pick the Lord sign and then you grab Savior's Hide, you are super tanky to magic. And you can get it as early as level 17. It's from Hircine's Daedric Quest. It gives you decent light armor, and it also gives you resist magic 25. So if you add in the Lord sign and you add in Breton, you're at 90% magic resist. It's also just good armor, and it's also just a good effect for any light armor build. Light armor is just as good as heavy armor. You just have to know how to use it. I will make a video on this because I know a lot of people will probably challenge that because it's like common knowledge, or at least accepted, that heavy armor is better. But in the remaster, things are a bit different. The Lord sign helps you patch armor early. So if you run Lord sign anyways, you get 15 base armor cap. So that plus early light armor, and you add alteration to the mix, you're easily hitting like 50 to 70 armor cap or armor value early. And then as you level up your light armor, you easily hit cap pretty consistently. So this is a pretty strong item for hitting magic resist. And it's also good armor. And it's good armor you can get early and consistently. And the quest to get it, assuming you have magical damage and enchanted weapons, is not that difficult. All right, so next we have Mace of Molag Bal. Now, this was one of my favorite weapons from the original game, even though... Actually, I think Blunt used to be kind of decent. But now it's like, with the shield effects, I don't think it's as good. They did buff it. So it used to do Absorb Strength, 5 points for 0 seconds. Now I think they gave it like 5 or 10 seconds or something like that. Then it also absorbs magic of 5 points. It has 44 uses. Its base damage, I think, is either at or above a Daedric Mace, which is decent. You can get it as early as... level 17, which is obviously well before you could get a Daedric Mace. So if you plan on running like a Blunt build, this would be like a go-to. I'm going to say this is a decent item. The big issues with Blunt, like the big issue with Blunt, is that the shield effect is redundant for like late game or middle game if you're running Alteration, and especially middle game if you're running the Lord sign and Alteration. So the big issue with Mace is that it needs like more damage and more crowd control. And this particular Mace doesn't really deal that much damage, because it doesn't have like a huge elemental nuke on it, and Absorb Magicka and Absorb Strength are just not damage effects, so it's not going to help you kill things, and that's really what you want to do at the end of the day in this game, is kill the enemies. Goldbrand, I'm putting in S tier. This might be... Honest, like literally Goldbrand is enough to kill things without a ramp. It like All right, so here's what Goldbrand has going for it. It has 25 might. You can get it at level 20. The quest to get it gets you a ton of crazy items because you have to fight like 9 champions that all have like really cracked gear. So just by doing this at level 20, you're guaranteed to get a ton of money and get rich. And if you combine Beast of Burden to carry all that stuff out, you're going to make like a ton of money as soon as you hit level 20, get a ton of good gear, get a ton of good items, get enchanted stuff, get crazy arrows, get tons of potions. But aside from that, it has the same base damage as a Madness Sword, which you could get a Madness Sword, but you need like a perfect Madness Sword, but you need to be level 23. So it's an early perfect Madness Sword. It also does 22 points of fire damage with 76 uses, which is quite good. So 76 hits until it drains. It has 3,000 charge, which is respectable. It's not too high. If it was lower, it'd be better, but it has pretty good uses for how much damage it deals per hit. If you run ramp with this, it easily kills. Like if you run a 2 fire ramp into Goldbrand, it like kills in 2 to 3 hits. Like it kills Zivilai in like 2 to 3 hits, maybe 4. But most Daedra get melted by this thing with a basic ramp. Without ramp, it's good damage. I actually ran this on my mundane build, and it did consistently good damage. You just have to keep soul trapping, you know, with like Umbra or something, and then refilling Azura's Star. But it's good enough to beat endgame content with, and it's strong enough. It has good damage, and it's just consistently a strong item, as well as giving you a bunch of items. So Ogma, Infinium. So you do have to complete all of the other Daedric quests to get this, but it does allow you to raise attributes above 100, especially like willpower and intelligence. So you actually choose like a path. So there's like the path of steel, the path of shadow, the path of spirit. So the path of spirit, you can get like intelligence plus 10, willpower plus 10. So you can get to plus 100 or plus 10 intelligence, which is more magicka, and then plus 10 willpower, which is quite good. It is strong. I'm going to put it in high A tier. The reason it's not an S tier is because it has the big downside of forcing you to turn in Clavicus Vial quest, which makes Umbra have weight, and I consider that to be a big downside. Now, depending on if you use Umbra or not, that may or may not be a downside, but honestly, I consider it to be a downside that you have to do all the Daedric quests, because you have to do quests that you just don't care about, and you have to get items that you don't care about. But that aside, if you're running this on the correct build, like a magical build that doesn't care about Umbra anyways, you don't mind turning it in, getting rid of it, or whatever, then it's S tier for sure. But if you're just like just by virtue of needing to do all the quests is kind of a hassle in my opinion, especially if I don't want to do all the Daedric quests. If I just want to do like 3 for the build that I'm running, I'm going to do that. Can also get you speed and strength. The strength only really scales shield damage, but does scale carry weight. Speed does scale speed a little bit, from what I understand. And then the agility, speed, path of shadow, that could be decent. I mean, it's decent. It's overall good. Plus 10 isn't the end of like not the end of the world. It's not like the best thing ever. It's not going to carry a build. It's going to help you do better. It's going to improve your build objectively. But by the time you get this, you're going to be at a point where you're already overpowered. So I don't even honestly think it does that much. It's the equivalent of having like a willpower plus 10 enchant, which is, you know, in order for willpower to matter, it has to be like 150 to 200 from scaling. So like going from 100 to 110, you're not going to really see that big of a difference. So I honestly do think it is just A tier. All right, next we have the Mask of Clavicus Vial. So in order to do this one, you actually have to be level 20, but you don't have to be level 20 to kill Umbra. I think the mask, it's not useless, but I do think it's bad. I think compared to Umbra, so why is the mask bad? So first of all, it has a really bad enchantment. Fortify personality 20 points. Personality, aside from running like the high personality build to get enemies to not attack you, which is just a game-breaking gimmick, honestly, it's not really useful in combat. It doesn't really do anything that helps you. So if you want to go for like 250 plus personality build, knock yourself out. But if you're just trying to run this as like a heavy armor piece, its armor rating is decent, but the fact that it has a built-in bad enchantment just makes it worse than like an unenchanted Madness helmet or Daedric helmet. And you'd be better off just running one of those and then giving it an enchantment that you actually want. But the other downside is that you have to turn in Umbra, which I consider to be really strong. So why is Umbra good? So if you don't even start this quest and you don't even do this quest, you can just get Umbra right away by killing Umbra. You can take her into the poison room where she can die from poison, or you can have her fall into the trap, or you can just run ramp and kill her with ramp. You can run summons. There's a bunch of different ways to kill Umbra early. But if you kill her early, you get a weightless Umbra sword that still does drain fatigue on swing, and it still counts its weight, but it doesn't add to your weight. So you get a 120-second soul trap sword that even if you just use it as utility, you just tap an enemy with it, put the longest duration soul trap possible, from what I understand, through it like an enchantment, and then kill it. You know, you just tap it, switch to your main offense, kill it. Or you can even use Umbra. It's unleveled. If you get this at level 1, this sword is as good as it will be in Endgame. The only difference is that you need to get 100 strength, 100 blade, and 75 armor in order to squeeze as much damage out of it as possible, but the sword is not leveled, so if you get it at level 1, you're good to go. And if you kill Umbra early, like before level 15, her armor is like Orcish. If you kill her after level 15 or higher, her armor is Ebony. So if you kill her at level 15, you get full Ebony armor, and you get the highest might sword in the game for base damage, excluding enchantments and stuff. But outside of everything, if you just never turn in Clavicus Vile Quest and just use this as weightless soul trap tool, it's really huge. But if you also use it as a damage nuke, without, like, if you're not running like ramp and you don't want to use enchantments and all this stuff, if you just want like a big sword that does good damage, this is the highest might sword, and you can kill Zivilize with this on master mode reliably, and other enemies as well. If you use power attacks to get the 30% debuff from Blade, add Master Blade on things, and then start hitting with Umbra, you will kill things reasonably quickly. You can kill a Zivili in around like 50 seconds to a minute with the tank build with Umbra. It's not bad. Like, it's serviceable. It's definitely a good sword for endgame on master mode without any fluff or any builds or anything like that. Next we have Mehrunes Razor. So there is a build where you run 200 luck, and this gets this to like 10 to 11% chance to proc, which is good. It does have uses though. So unlike in Skyrim, where this does not have uses, in Oblivion it does. So it has 49 charges, and in order for it to potentially kill, you have to have a charge, right? So it also has 8,000 charge, which is a problem. In order for you to keep this enchantment maintained, a Grand Soul Gem only refills 1,600 charge. So if you want to mainline this as a weapon, you're looking at essentially a random Daedric Dagger that costs a ton to recharge. If I just enchant a Daedric Dagger, it has 1,600 total charge. I can make a dagger that does really good damage and have like 20 to 40 uses, and it only takes, you know, like a Greater or a Grand Soul Gem to refill it. So if I'm running Azura Star, I can easily maintain that. If I'm running Conjuration, I can easily maintain that. The charge level of 8,000 is very extreme, and it's going to cost you several Grand Soul Gems just to recharge it from 0 to full. And also it only has 49 uses, and if you're relying on an 11% chance to kill, you're looking at least 10 hits per enemy to kill. So if you want to kill 5 enemies, you're out of a charge. Very likely. Like, if you're relying on that to kill. The other effect it has, Disintegrate Armor, 15 points for 7 seconds. Very weak effect, not as good as it seems. It does nothing against things without armor. Honestly, there is one thing though. Apparently it has longer range, slightly longer reach than a standard dagger. That's interesting, but for the low base damage, well, it's not low, it's like competitive with the Daedric Dagger. But for the low damage outside of the insta-kill, because it doesn't have an elemental enchantment or anything else of value, you're looking at a very difficult to maintain enchantment, in addition to it just being worse than a straight up Daedric Dagger. It looks cool, the effect is interesting. If it had like 1,000 charge with 50 uses, that would be good, but because it has 8,000 charge level, it's just going to cost you, like, each Grand Soul is 1,600 charge. So you're looking at like 5 to 6 Grand Souls to refill this thing, if my basic math is roughly correct. I'm going to put this in C tier. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, but I can instant kill. Yeah, but it's like 10 hits. That's a fifth of your charge bar. That's literally a Grand Soul, roughly. That's like about a Grand Soul just to kill a single target. There are much better builds. There are much more efficient dagger nukes. There's AoE dagger nukes. There's single target dagger nukes. There's ramp dagger nukes. There's so much more that's much better, that will more consistently and reliably kill and fewer attacks, that just outclasses this outright. All right, next we have the Gray Cowl. So this is pretty strong. Now this is from the Thieves Guild. I never do the Thieves Guild, but this is a Daedric artifact. You don't get it through a shrine though. Now Umbra is related to a shrine quest, so that's why I include it. But the Gray Cowl essentially allows you to get away with crimes if you wear it, because then the gray cowl builds up the crime. And there's other effects too. So becoming the gray fox has a lot of advantages. Fortify sneak 25 points is good. Feather 200 points is very good. And overall, I'm going to put this in low S tier. I think it's safe to say this is a really strong item for, you know, thievery, because then you can just commit a bunch of crimes, run away and unequip this, then you're good to go. All right, so here is where the list is now after playing the game for over 200 hours, master mode only, running a variety of different builds. But that is it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next one. Peace.